Okay, we're in just outside Portballantrae on the north coast, Northern Ireland, and this one's going to take a little bit of imagination because it's changed significantly since the event we're going to describe, but we're going to cast our minds back to 1976, and this was a Ministry of Defence shooting range. It's fields, obviously you can hear cows in the background, but if you can imagine a raised bank on the far side, just where the sea is, that's where targets were raised. There was a big sandy bank, and at the front here, just more or less where the first cows, you can see there's a raised shooting range, and then if you can imagine here, there's another raised shooting range. This is basically all that's left of the original bit. So the soldiers would have stepped down here, made their way to the range to lie down, and then they would have shot at the targets in the distance. On the right hand side you can just see a wee concrete square bollard, and that's where they put a red flag to show you that the shooting range was in progress and not to come near. So in 1975, it was about 6 or 7 years after the IRA started their terrorist campaign. This was a Ulster Defence Regiment UDR shooting range, and that was a either full-time or part-time local defence to support the army, and it was made up of every occupation you can imagine. It could be milkmen, doctors, teachers, basically anybody, and their aim was to help support the army and to try and tackle the IRA terrorists. So it was one Sunday, August 1976, 21 Platoon E Company. They had just done a march and they were coming to do their shooting practice, and what happened was, I'll just read out the actual record of events by one of those present. I'll just step over down into the field. So at the start of the range day, Sergeant George Mitchell and I were making our way down to the butts. That's where the fellas lay down to shoot. So they made their way down to the butts for the first detail of the march and shoot firing practice. Corporal Robert McCarran, he was the one that was seriously injured, and another soldier were setting out 6 rounds of ammunition at each firing point. Various teams were out on a forced march just before this. So when the march and shoot team arrived on the firing point, they had to change their magazines with the ammunition and then engage the targets, and the target was in the distance. Sergeant Mitchell and myself were about 50 metres from the firing point when this blast came. It was like a heavy wind, and we felt this blast on the back of our legs. I looked round and saw Corporal McCarran flying through the air. A soldier was lying in the trench in front of the firing point, screaming with his face covered in blood. As we ran back to the firing point, Alex was already on the scene supervising the first aid to the 2 injured soldiers. He did a wonderful job under the circumstances. Although the private soldier looked the worst of the 2, all his wounds were superficial. However, Corporal McCarran had sustained severe chest and jaw injuries, and then it was the surgeon at Coleraine Hospital had to use pioneering techniques to reconstruct Corporal McCarran's jaw. Sadly, Corporal McCarran had stepped on the pressure pad, and he survived. Although he survived the Republican booby trap, he was unfit for any further service. So this was the local firing point. We'll do a wee swing around. and what it was a milk churn bomb. And what they did was, it's like a milk churn, so they would have filled the milk churn full of explosives with a pressure pad, buried the milk churn, and it was unfortunate that the soldier McCarran stepped on it, and then he was blown up. So that's when the IRA terrorists came to Portballantrae in 1976. Beautiful spot now. So it's just a little bit of history. You wouldn't know it was here, an open field, but you wouldn't be able to tell. And the only thing that's left here now is the old steps that took you down into the shooting range. Okay folks, that's me out and about again, doing a little bit of history. Hope you like that.